So this afternoon, our webinar is all about how to enable flexible working between remote workers and people who are starting to go back to the office. So many months ago, we started doing webinars which are all about enabling remote working. Back then, many people had suddenly found themselves working from home, working remotely away from those in the office. But now, after 4 months have gone by, we're starting to see people trickle back to the office, but maybe, still collaborating with people who remain working from home from personal reasons, through health reasons, and through finding that actually they can do their job just as well based at home. So today I'll be looking at a couple of different features which will help support you and your team, whether they're working at home, in the office, or jumping in between. So using Ayoa, they can collaborate in exactly the same way as if everyone was in the office. We're going to show that remote working and flexible working doesn't need to impact communication and productivity, and that you can keep up to date with what your colleagues are working on. As Ayoa is cloud-based, you'll never have to leaving certain documents on particular laptops on memory sticks ever again, because if you store everything in Ayoa or link it to Ayoa, you're going to be able to access it from wherever you are. And also using Ayoa to have a more positive experience when we're working remotely with a variety of different people, through mind mapping, which will allow people to contribute more, share ideas, and give an equal voice to everyone in the company. So where I'm going to start with today is all about communication with your team. And I'm going to introduce a couple of new features that we've brought in recently. So the first feature I'm going to show you is called Team Pulse. And you can find this right at the top of the toolbar. So Team Pulse is a way to share what you're working on with your team. So for example, on this feed, I can see what my colleagues are doing. They're sharing that information with everyone else. And by using groups, a feature that I'll show you next, you can even check by department or particular focus group on what they're working on. So where this is positive is that if you've got a mix of people who are, some of them are working in the office, some of them are working remotely, and some of them, are mixing it up, it means, it can be difficult to stay up to date with what your team are up to. And by using the Team Pulse, you can keep that communication flowing freely. So for example, I can update my status now. I can send that out. Now I can even add attachments or tag particular people. So if I wanted to send out, let's say a team update where I maybe wanted to share a first draft of some designs we've been working on, maybe some positive feedback, you can put it all in your status, and that way you don't need to start a chat where it's an active communication, but you're still making sure that everyone knows what's going on. So down here you can see the groups, and if you're working in a team or even multiple teams, then it's going to start to be important for you to organize those different teams. So if you go to the menu and click on groups, here you can organize different groups of people. So you could organize them by departments, like we have here, so customer service, development, and finance. You could add external stakeholders, or you could even add different project groups where you have people from different departments working on one particular project. So here we have groups. So in this section, you can create groups which are a mix of people who are part of your team subscription, but also people who are external to that. So for example, if you're a company that works with maybe a group of contractors, consultants, you can add them to groups using the top option. But if you want to create groups which are completely exclusive to your Ayoa plan, you can use the second option here. So for example, I'm going to create a group here by clicking the green plus. I'm going to name it just tap enter, and I've created my new group. So what I can do now is add an image so that it's easily recognizable when I'm searching for my groups. And I can now start inviting people to this particular group. Up here, I can decide whether I want this group to be visible and usable by all, or if I want to keep this private, I can change it to group members only, and that way only us three will know that this particular group exists. So where can you use groups? So the first example is if you're creating group chat, rather than having to search for a new group each time, then I can create a chat straight from the group and start it now. So I don't need to add the individual members, I just pick the group and start chatting to them. I can also use groups when creating a new mind map or task board. So for example, if I just click new speed map, when you go to invite people, instead of typing a name, you can start typing in the name of the group instead, and you'll have a whole group of people added to that mind map or task board, which just saves you a lot of time. So whilst you're in an existing task board, if you had a task which you wanted to add to multiple people, you can do exactly the same. So rather than adding just one person, you can assign the entire group all at once. And this has all been designed to help you work more efficiently while both at the office and working remotely. Some other tweaks that we've added. So we have the Ayoa chat. We've had this for a while, so you can keep in touch with the people that you know. You can send tasks instantly to them. And a little tweak we've added while working remotely is that you can update your status. So if you click online, you can choose to put yourself away, busy, offline. I can choose exactly how long I want to have this status for, and it will automatically clear it after that time. I can even add extra details if I want. Although this might seem like quite a simple feature, by adding busy and out of the office and all that little information, it means that people who are trying to chat with you, who can't physically see you because either you're working remotely or they're working remotely, know not to bother you, or that if they message you, they'd be talking to themselves. So the next feature I'll be talking about, which will help support your team while you're working in different spaces, is our mind mapping feature and how that can be used to facilitate meetings. So for example, I'm just going to pick a speed map. using the group option. I'm going to add some extra people there and create blank mind map. And I've quickly chosen a royalty-free image. I'm just going to edit that and make it bigger so we can see the whole image. So already, we've got a central idea, and this will be, what the name of the meeting. And from here, instead of, taking down linear notes, you can start mind mapping the notes. And if you type something wrong, just double click. And you can start documenting the different ideas so that, while you're in that Zoom meeting, with people at the office and at home, you won't lose any information. And you can see, yeah, it's really easy just to start adding ideas out. So, what I can do from this after this meeting is finished, and we've got the different notes from the meeting. There might be things that need to be actioned after the meeting. So what you can do is click on that branch, click on the tick, and here you can create a task. So if I click on the 3 dots, I can choose what taskboard I want to add it to, and click add task. So straight away, rather than having to write up the notes and determine what the actions need to be, I can start sending these tasks out straight away. And when I open this task board, that task will be all ready for me, ready to delegate out to the team and to complete. There we go. So you can see that's the task that I created on the mind map, and it's now on there. So as well as meetings, you could use your mind map for lots of different things. I'll give you an example of a mind map we've done earlier, where we've used the mind map to explore, different solutions and different approaches to a marketing campaign. You could essentially use the mind map as like a virtual whiteboard where it's contributing different ideas. I do apologize. I too am working remotely, and I don't always have the most reliable internet connection. So I do apologize if anything's a little bit slow. There we go. So you can see, this is the mind map where we made earlier, where we've all been able to contribute different things and different ideas. A difficulty you might have found while working from home is that in Video calls, sometimes it could be hard to get your idea across. There might be a delayed connection where you're constantly accidentally talking over each other, or you may just not have the confidence to say what you really think, or be feel comfortable enough to really express your idea. With a mind map, everyone's on equal footing. You can just put down that idea and really express yourself. And that will work for everyone. And that means you could be in the office and you could have this on a big screen, and those of you who are at the office can all view at the big screen. But it means that anyone who's at home is still able to collaborate in real time and contribute to that project. So what I'll be looking at next is other forms of collaborating and ensuring that projects still run smoothly even when you've got staff working in different locations. And this is where we begin to look at task boards. So I'm just going to open one that we created earlier. And you can see on this task board, we've set out different sections, of the project, such as the initial planning. So you could use this first column to add those tasks that you've created in your mind map meetings, and then start distributing them, across the task board and assigning them. And as you assign them, you'll see who's assigned by the avatar even before you've clicked on it. So encourage your different colleagues and members of staff to upload a photo of themselves, so that way it will really feel like you're working as a team when you can actually see their face and what tasks have been assigned to them. So if you wanted to create a task board from scratch, choose one of the three options here. Let's say we click workflow, and we'll think of something where a process that's possibly changed since the lockdown. So new employee onboarding. We'll just add a group of people and create task board. So for example, this will be a task board where you're going to have multiple different departments working for the same purpose. So let's create a category called HR, as they might manage one part of the employee onboarding. IT. And line manager. So let's keep this really simple. So already, we've split up this task board into 3 different categories. And from here, we can start adding subcategories. So if I drag and drop, HR might have a subcategory called payroll. Health and safety. Go. And then IT might be inbox, software, etc. And then line manager could be productions, Okay, so we've outlined normal processes that could happen when you're onboarding a new employee that might look a bit different. Now that employee might not be physically in your office, so you could use this task board to keep on track on what's been done, what hasn't been done, and making sure that everyone's accountable for their part in successfully getting this new employee onboarded. So for example, we can add a task, and to do that, you could drag and drop, but to be honest, it's much quicker just to double click wherever you want to add that task. Bank details. We can use the checklist to add extra information. The name, bank, over. I number. You can see you can take one seemingly quite simple task and break it down into little checklist items. Currently that's assigned to me, but I may want to pass this on to someone else and unassign myself. You can add multiple people at the same time. So let's say the person who's managing this is missing information. They could add someone else to this task and message them. In this instance, instead of email, we can have them message us right here. Likewise with the line manager, instead of having a normal icebreaker, we'd have a big meeting. This could be my map icebreaker. And Zoom meetings. So you can see how that task board can take something that you would normally do in the office and allow you to organize it through multiple locations with different people and keep that process nice and smooth. So what we can do now is we can start thinking about dates. For example, if I go to the info, click on start date, I can decide when do we need to get moving on this? When does it need to be done by? Just to show you again, we go to start date. So now that I've added start dates, if I go up to here and choose a different view, so the Gantt timeline, I can now see on the timeline exactly when the tasks begin and when they're due to end. So that anyone who's working out the schedules for different projects has a much better idea of where there's overlap, where there's a gap, and where things need to be rescheduled. So I'm just going to go back to the task board we created earlier. So, when you've got people working at home and working remotely, it can be difficult to be sure how far along on a certain task people are. And people could communicate that really easily. So they can go to status But we can say, yeah, this is in progress. This is how far along I am. And in the comments, they can keep you updated with exactly what they're doing. If you want to check on a particular person's workload or how far along they are, if anything's overdue, if you go down to the filters, you can click by filter by assignee, pick and choose one. And that means that even when you're not working in the same place as your employee, you still got an idea of what they're working on and what they might need help on. You can get an overview of all those different projects in calendar. So by going to menu and clicking on the calendar. So right now, this is showing my calendar, but if I click on it and choose Alex instead, this will open up her calendar. So I'll be able to see what she's working on, and I can see what she's got overdue. So I can see in this list, there's quite a lot overdue. So I know that Alex might need help, or I might need to reassign these tasks to other people. And I can do that really quickly, right away, clicking on info. Now I can re-add somebody else and unassign Alex. So as your task boards go on, you'll find that you're completing more and more tasks, and you may want to keep track of who's done what and what things have been done. So just to show you, if you go to status and click completed, that completes the task, and anything that is completed is kept in the completed view, and that's kept in there permanently. So that means that you can switch this view at any time and see who's completed what, when they completed it. You'll be able to see the original start and end date, so you'll have an idea of who's ahead of schedule and who's falling behind or who just missed their deadline. And you can also, if you've decided actually this wasn't completed, you can put it back into progress and even message that person. So that person can continue working on it. So I mentioned that one of the great things about Ayoa is that everything is saved online through the cloud, which is what allows the real-time collaboration on the mind maps and the task boards, and also allows you to access all of those task boards and mind maps and any attachments you add wherever you are. But if you're working in the office and you still like to have traditional printouts, you can still do that. You can do that by going to export and choosing to export it as a PDF, JPEG or PNG. So another concern of yours when working remotely is that you may still want to share information with clients. Now, if you don't want to add them to Ayoa, that's absolutely fine, because what you can do instead, if you go up to the settings here and click on public sharing, you can create a public share link, just copy it, and if you share that link with your external clients, they'll be able to see a read-only version of your mind map. So if there's feedback that you want to give them, or possibly outlines or ideas you want to communicate with them without actually adding them or inviting to Ayoa, you can use this option instead. If they have got Ayoa, so if you've got a client or a contractor who you know is using Ayoa, you can give them these additional options as well, so they can vote on branches or add comments or even add branches of their own. And that way, you can have an active conversation about that particular mind map. So Ayoa isn't just great for teams and colleagues. It will also help you still communicate with external stakeholders, even as you're navigating, starting to work back at the office and working remotely. Okay, so those are a couple of ideas on how you can use Ayoa to navigate your team working remotely and starting to work back at the office, as well as using Ayoa with external clients. So on the Zoom controls, there is an option called Q&A. So if you have any questions about anything I've showed you today, or you have any other questions about using Ayoa, please use the Q&A and I will answer those questions for you. So if after today you want to learn more about using Ayoa, we have support guides available on support.ayoa.com. We also have YouTube tutorials where you can find the recordings of previous webinars. So just search for Ayoa and you should find our channel. And then for any other questions, simply email support@ayoa.com and we'll get back to you. We do our webinars on a weekly basis. So the next webinar will be about overcoming remote work fatigue. As it's been some time now since we started working remotely, and that can be overwhelming when you haven't been used to it before. So we'll be exploring different ways you can make that more interesting. We've got lots of new features coming up. So we're focusing on adding new languages. In the last few months, we've added Korean, Japanese, and French, and we have lots more languages to come. So we've actually added the Team Pulse dashboard now, which is the feature I showed you earlier. And then coming up soon, we've got the Zoom integration, so you can use Zoom within Ayoa Chat, to talk in real time, which will really help to facilitate, your meetings, without ever leaving Ayoa. And we have those new teams and groups features as well. And there's more of that to come to, help people, manage their team more effectively. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any questions regarding today's webinar. I'll just give you 30 seconds more. So, if anyone does have any questions and they're in the middle of typing, do let me know and I'll hang on for you. But otherwise, if anything occurs to you after the webinar today, do just pop us over an email at support@ayoa.com and I'd be happy to help. Brilliant. Okay, I think that's everyone sorted. So I hope you found today's webinar helpful, and any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at support@ayoa.com. Thank you very much.